I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my story and how I ended up here in part by guns, or due to the gun culture in the U.S. and Edmonton. So I left Austin, Texas, in the U.S. for good, I hope, in August of 2015. I'd been wrestling for several years with the decision to accept recruitment offers from the University of Alberta to come to what is arguably the best and largest Indigenous studies unit in the world. But moving 2,200 miles northwest felt daunting. I had a good life in Austin. I had asked at that time for one more year to decide whether I would come here or not, but in the summer of 2015, the debate over legalized open carry in Texas really heated up, and so we professors at the University of Texas were faced with having guns in our classrooms. Visibly, of course, conceal and carry was already legal. So I teach Indigenous, feminist, and queer theory, and I've had students run out of my classroom with anxiety, students not be able to finish the semester for being too emotionally engaged by the material. Most students work through the challenges and are able to complete the courses. But I've also throughout my career, and that's about 12 years now, had hostile, almost always white male students who are visibly angered by my course content. I was unwilling to risk guns in my classroom, and I could see all around us in Texas the gun humpers, as my anti-gun violence activist friends call them, getting more emboldened. They were parading around with big guns on their backs. Literally, you can see this in a Starbucks in Austin. So unlike a lot of Americans, I had an out, so I took it. Gun violence grew intolerable for me back in 2015, and it has not abated since. If you follow the website on mass shootings in the U.S., you will see that in the past couple of years, the U.S. has had on average 1 mass shooting per day, the definition being 4 or more shot and or killed in a single event at the same time at general location, not including the shooter. I was at a point where I would be sitting in a restaurant and I'd catch myself figuring out an escape route, or I would yank my head up. Within my peripheral vision, I saw a clean-cut white guy in a military vest with pockets stride purposefully into the cafe. Does he have a gun? Would sound in my head. I was shocked when this started to happen. So armed citizens in public is becoming normalized in the U.S. again. Guns as a right is an ideology that traces back, of course, to keeping black people enslaved and to killing Indians. So let us be clear that gun rights are ultimately about white men's rights. The right to terrorize and control. When the white power structure feels their control is threatened, they have historically picked up guns. There are many historians who write on this. There's a long historical precedent for this. Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz is an Indigenous studies scholar who recently wrote a book on the history of the Second Amendment, and she shows that the white male settler population was armed to carry out the will of the colonial state, both to help with Indigenous genocide, so to steal and keep the property they stole, and also to maintain African slavery, to help them catch runaway property. Another historian, Nathan Wurtenberg, penned an op-ed in the Washington Post recently that also explained how gun rights are about keeping white men on top. He did another history of the establishment of the Second Amendment, showing that in the U.S. and in the colonies before that, women and enslaved people were prohibited from owning guns, Native people were prohibited from owning guns. So this history is a foundation for the gun violence that we are confronting today. So strengthening gun laws is key, but we must also take on the history of the settler state, its military culture, and the policy, lobbying, and ideological work it does to arm individual citizens, most often white men, to carry out its projects. So my critique of gun violence is really solidly within settler colonial history. And I just want to share one more story that I think is really shocking. In the days after the shooting that occurred at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida, the U.S. Army announced it would give medals of heroism to 3 young students who, quote-unquote, gave their lives when the gunman opened fire inside that school. That same gunman had been trained to shoot in the same high school junior reserve officer training corps as those young students who so-called gave their lives. I prefer to say they were murdered. This kind of military rhetoric and response demonstrates the normalization of U.S. schools as de facto war zones. The murders of those children was immediately seized upon by a military culture to generate yet more militarized nationalist rhetoric. And I see little questioning of the training and arming of those children in schools, in programs that exist across the country to do that. This was not a one-off. These training corps are common. So this worldview must be challenged. The U.S. worldview has too much influence around the world. So for me, Dakota. I'm Dakota. I'm from the Siksika-Wahtenaoyate in what is now South Dakota. As an Indigenous person whose homelands are still occupied by a violent armed power that is still obsessed with militarized control at home and abroad, there's a whole lot at stake in this pushback against the unfettered army of a white male citizenry who feels their power is threatened. Thanks.